Hi guys, welcome to Teachers Off Duty. For those of you that might not have tuned in with us before, my name is Rebecca Rogers. I'm R Rogers World on social media.
I'm
I always forget your
I don't know why
name.
I did, and it's my real name. I'm not even making it up every time.
We're gonna have James hold up a cue card for
I
you.
know.
You
like
are
an SNL with a poster. I'm Tell Williams, Mr. Williams Pre-K on all social media.
I am Bree, aka Honest Teacher Vibes.
I told you she'd
Don't
forget.
say it.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Don't. We keep making. Well, I don't. Becca keeps making fun of Bree because she's saying her
started with
name.
Lauren.
You're the ringleader, though.
Why was I the ringleader?
You
Why
started
are you looking so
it.
guilty, though?
It's
A
real
hit dog
defensive.
will holler.
I
Real
feel
defensive.
offended.
Another one.
I hate when people say stuff like
Another
that. I'm
one.
like, what? That ain't got
A
nothing to do
hit
with
dog.
nothing.
A hit
dog will holler.
I'm writing that one down.
Have you never heard that? we
Bree's
now
book.
have a book of
Go.
sayings
Bree's
because
book.
apparently I come up with a lot of random stuff.
She does.
Go ahead, Lauren.
She does.
What's your name?
My name is
Becca,
Lauren.
She said her name, rude.
I said her
Don't bring
name.
our conversation.
She
We
stole
don't need you
she
to
stole
bring the
my thunder.
conversation back. Well, she said her name,
No.
and they know her name. We're all sleepy. I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm Lauren Woolley, Mrs. Woolley and Fifth on social media.
So a lot of our conversation, not just this month, but just in general, always centers around teacher struggles, especially during the pandemic, how, people who don't go through it just don't get it. But something else that we really wanted to shed light on is being a student right now. People who were not students during the pandemic don't know what it's like to be a student during the pandemic.
Right.
And Bree actually asked the kids on social media, why are you guys so apathetic? Like, what is going on? Can we have a little bit of insight into what you all are feeling? And we wanted to share that with you guys and shed some light on what the kids are going through right now.
Yeah, so this came from 2 days in a row at school. I had, just teaching my heart out like I do, okay? Sometimes. Sometimes y'all do independent reading for 30 minutes and don't talk to me. Unless admin walks in. And then, okay, guys, back to what we were talking about, working with your groups and your shoulder partners. They know we be
shoulder
we,
partners.
They know the drill.
They know we be BSing when they come in and we be sitting down and we hop up and pretend like.
See, the
we
thing
shit
is that you got to train them so that, when you do that, they're like, I thought the character was very well developed throughout the
There's
beginning
some
to the
really-
end of the story. Like,
There's
some
really good
general
snacks in
answer.
this. Yeah, there's some really good snacks in this for y'all if you get this right. But so 2 days in a row, like I just had, kids late to class, kids absent, kids sleeping in class, kids just not paying attention, kids just like won't do the assignment. And I tell my kids, like, all you have to do is try. Like, no, I still stand by this. No teacher will fail a kid that's trying. Even if you have no idea what's going on, the fact that you're willing to try means you're going to grow, even if it's just a little bit. So I had already had that conversation with my students, and I just had gotten to a point where I was like, dang, they really do not care. And so my students know, like, we're going to have real talk all the time. So, like, I'll just straight up start talking to them like I'm their auntie. Like, why do y'all not care? Right? And so that particular class, like, they left. And that afternoon after school, I was like, man, let me just make a TikTok and ask the kids, like, hey, why do y'all not, like, why are y'all so apathetic? If you don't know what apathetic means, it means like you just really don't care.
English
And
teacher.
Context clues. This is a descriptive context clue. There's different context clues: inferencing, descriptive, explanation, antonym, synonym, ideas, acronym. If you need to teach context clues.
My eyes have glazed over.
Okay. Either way, it's neither here nor there. So anyway, after school, I was like, okay, like, let me make this TikTok and just ask the kids because, I feel like I'm online. I feel like I'm their TikTok teacher. So I was like, look at that. Look at that. Y'all don't know what figurative language that is?
What?
TikTok teacher?
Alliteration.
My alliteration.
Alliteration.
I was so invested in
I
what
was
you were
too.
saying.
All
All
I
y'all
was
were
like,
about to be fired.
no, I was
I
invested.
forgot what it was for a second because I'm sleepy. But it's like, is it oxymoron? So I made that TikTok, and the amount of kids that I was surprised at how many like student responses I got. So normally, like, we don't read things off our phones, but I want y'all to know exactly what the kids said. So I'm going to read one. We're going to discuss it. But most of them have a common theme to them. Like, if you listen, I'm not going to read all of them. We'll read like 5 or 6 of them. But most of the responses of the kids, they had a common theme. And anybody, like adults, tried to comment and were like, this is what I think. I ain't asked you, fam. I asked the kids. If you're not kids, somebody that just graduated was like, well, I think I'm not talking to you.
We wanna
Talking to
right
kids,
now
you
what the
graduated
kids are
two.
feeling.
If you graduated 2 or more years ago, I'm not talking to
It's
you.
the same energy of like we don't want to hear from people who haven't taught in a pandemic.
Right.
Like I don't want to hear from
Right.
adults about
Okay.
the kids.
So I looked at a lot of the kids' responses, and then I ended up, like I took their responses and put them on Instagram. But it was just like really interesting to like peer into their hearts and what they said. And so these are some of the responses. So if you want to see the responses, they're on my Instagram stories, Honest Teacher Vibes. There's a highlight bubble that says apathy on the highlight bubble. So this kid said, so I asked them like, hey, why are y'all apathetic? Like, why does it seem like y'all just don't care about school? Like y'all won't try. Like, it just seems like y'all are like, nah, like I don't really care. And so this kid said, honestly, I'm 15 and I've never looked at it from your point of view. And I'm sorry, I promise to try to do better. Have a nice day, ma'am. I was like,
That makes me want to cry.
if that one made you want to cry, just wait. But like, it was cool to hear him say like, dang, like I've never, as a kid, like I never really looked at it from, y'all's
But like
perspective.
developmentally wise, that's not a word that I'm not saying.
Developmentally.
Developmentally, thank you. I was like, it's not developmentally wise. But anyways, developmentally, there's kind of a point where kids really do have difficulties looking at things from other people's perspectives.
Right, and that's true.
Him being able to like put himself in other people's shoes, like that is great for a 15-year-old to be able
But
to
even
do.
when we were kids, though, I mean, I don't care about what, you know what I'm saying? Like when I was in middle school and
But
when
that's
I
what
was
I'm
in,
saying. That's
when I was in
impressive
elementary
for
and
him.
high
Like
school.
my teachers were out to get me. Like I genuinely
Really?
felt some. I mean, not all of them, but like when they would get upset that we weren't answering questions or that the students were fatigued and they were like, "Why aren't you responding to me?" I'm like, "Chill, it's fine." And then as a teacher, you're like, feel like I'm doing a stand-up routine and no one's laughing and the kids are giving nothing back and never considered.
Right.
I was in that position where I was just too tired to respond.
Right.
And as a teacher, when you're doing it, you're like, why am I not doing a good job?
Right. And it's kind of like we're so far removed from school.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hate to use this like example, but it's kind of like when an admin leaves the classroom, when an admin or a teacher becomes an admin.
Yeah.
They forget what it's like, even when they're only a year out. They forget what it was like to be a teacher. And now that they're an admin, and it's like, I still need, like, it's hard for them to relate to where we're coming from because they've been out of the classroom for so long. So for our kids, sometimes it's hard for us to put ourselves in their shoes because we've been out of school for so long.
And even some of the things that like kids have to do in school now are so much more demanding than what
Yeah.
we had to
for
do.
sure.
Like, I know standards have changed over time, but it's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot. And then, we know where our students come from. And
Right.
Yes.
a lot of them don't have great home lives or
Right.
they have to work jobs to help their family. It's
Right.
a lot
And-
to deal with.
And it's nothing against teachers at all. Like some people who are now teachers just were fortunate enough to not have the same kinds of at-home lives that a lot of our
Right.
students do.
Yeah.
Right.
So like for me, and I know I was super fortunate with my family and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, but I still took all the AP classes. I did the sports. I did worked in a restaurant since I was 16.
Right.
And even I don't know how to relate to some of the things that some of my students are dealing with at home. So a
Right.
teacher who didn't have to work when they were a kid or didn't do sports or didn't do
Right.
AP classes, like they don't know.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, I want to definitely want to bring light to what the kids are dealing with. But on the other side of that, there is a lot of stuff that they don't have to deal with because expectations for them are so low sometimes.
Right.
So it's not we don't have to go from one extreme to another, but there's both sides to that. It's a double-sided coin.
There's a difference between like making excuses of like they have all of this so they should get a
Right,
pass
right,
and then
right.
also just keeping in mind this is what I'm getting from them and keeping in mind that this is why they might be acting this way.
Right.
And they still, depending on what they're doing, they might get a consequence, whether it be a lower grade because they're not doing assignments or whatever, but it's at least understanding it's not to spite a teacher most of the time,
Right.
but just keeping it in mind.
Yeah. So this kid said sometimes school is just so draining. Some teachers' work is very excessive, and we stop trying because it's way too overwhelming.
I think that says something about, like what I was saying, the amount of pressure, and it trickles down. The amount of pressure that states put on teachers,
Right,
and then
and
teachers, and then in turn put on the students.
Right,
and it's
for
it's
sure.
like,
Because teachers are over.
somewhere it's gotta give.
Right.
They're assigning work and homework for a test or a standard or whatever, without the realization that other teachers in similar subjects are doing the
They're
same
also-
thing. So
I
when you
remember
have-
saying that when I was in school. I was
Yeah.
like, do these teachers realize I got 7 classes?
and in college,
And
you
all
have
of them
4.
have and all of
Right.
them have a test on Thursday and
Yeah.
homework every night, and now that I'm a teacher, even though I teach elementary school, I rarely give homework
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't give homework.
because I might give 1 page of math homework every now and then,
Yeah.
but that's even rare.
Yeah.
See, I remember when the pandemic started, I remember being in my PLT and one of the teachers was just so stressed out because she's like, I have all this to grade, and was giving a big assignment every single day in online learning. Whereas I was doing an assignment or 2 each week that they could do and turn in.
And
a
that's
little
your own
early.
fault.
And
why
then-
are you
right.
assigning these?
And then you're gonna sit there and be like, I'm so tired. I have all of these assignments
Right,
to
and
grade.
I'm like, then why are you
Hey,
first of all, why
shameless
are you
plug
giving
to
all of
first year
those?
teachers. Don't be grading all that stuff.
Well,
You
not
don't grade all
everything
that
needs
stuff.
to be
Pure-
a grade.
pure
Nothing
grade.
needs to be
Right,
graded.
and
Pure grade.
That is called a formative assessment.
When
Yeah.
we were just going virtual and people were just figuring out how to do online, why are you giving something every day? Do a group assignment that you do together in class
Right.
and then give them the afternoon off. You're practicing
Yeah.
with them. There's so many
Right.
other ways that you can make sure
Well,
they're
we don't
practicing.
we don't even give one we don't even give homework, which there's people gonna be arguing in the comments over homework.
I know.
But y'all do y'all because y'all argue about everything. But we don't give homework, one, because the demographic of our kids ain't got nobody at home help
Right.
them with their homework.
Yeah.
Number
Same.
2, we can't fail kids because they didn't turn in homework.
Right.
So I'm literally, if we need to practice something, we gonna do it at school. I'm not giving you homework for you to lose on the bus or losing your book bag. Then I got another problem added onto all the stuff that I'm
Right.
already dealing with. So in my class, so from what this student is saying about the work being excessive, hear me when I say we hear where y'all coming from. At the
yeah.
same time, it might seem excessive, but we're not I just know, I'm just speaking for my class. My kids think my work is excessive, but I know that I just know that it's not.
No, me too.
Because I'm not I know what excessive work is, and this is not excessive work. It's excessive sometimes because y'all lazy. That's why it's excessive. Now I'm not I know we talking about the kids, but we on real talk as well. And the teachers that's watching this, we understand that sometimes the kids think the work is excessive because they're not used to having to put in that kind of
Yeah.
effort to complete an assignment. They don't have the mental
Determination.
yeah, they don't have the mental stamina to keep working on an assignment, right? So my kids know when they come in bell work, you got 5 minutes. If it's a longer bell work, 10 minutes. You got kids at the end of the 10 minutes ain't got not a single thing written down. There's literally no excuse to not try.
Right.
And so my kids bell work, and then I do a mini lesson. I don't want to pay attention for more than 15 minutes. I ain't gonna make you pay attention for more than 15 minutes. Cause I get if we got a staff meeting and somebody standing up there talking for 30 minutes, bro, I'm looking at my phone.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna teach you for longer than 15 minutes because I know you a kid. Your attention span because of TikTok and social media is super low, right? So as engaging as I can be, then we practicing whatever skill I'm teaching you together, and then you have to do an independent assignment. How is that excessive?
Yeah.
You ain't even got no homework.
I literally just had this past week had a talk with one of my students because I noticed since Christmas break, since we came back, he has just been drifting through life, coming to school, chilling, not answering questions, just kind of being a bump on a log.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I pulled him aside. I was I was starting to get frustrated, and then I had to take a step back and be okay, just talk to the kid,
Yeah.
Right.
see what's going on. So I pulled him aside and I was dude, what is going on with you? I'm your ability is up here
Mm-hmm.
and your effort is down here.
Right.
I'm I'm gonna need those to match.
Right.
This is where you could be working, and I
Right.
know you're smart enough.
Right.
You can totally do everything that we're doing in class, but you're just sitting and waiting for everyone to give you the
Right, right,
answers.
Yeah.
And it's
And the thing
sometimes
is-
that it's that come to Jesus talk that
Right.
some kids
and it's
need.
okay. I think a lot of teachers need to realize our kids don't want to see us as these prim and proper people.
No.
Just have some real talk
Right.
and just talk directly to them. So my thing is I'm the type of person that if I'm gonna complain, let's do some solution based complaining, right? So if we're gonna complain, let's find a solution to that complaining because perception is reality. So for this kid, his perception is that the schoolwork is excessive and it's overwhelming. So when we say what we say, we're not trying to discount his perspective perspective that the work is excessive and it's overwhelming. But how can we connect with you, and how can we communicate with you to help you not feel like the work is excessive, but to also help you not feel overwhelmed? Because it's a disconnect, because one, we're coming from two different perspectives, but as teachers, we can talk to y'all, but y'all got to talk back to us. Not talk back and be disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Like, in having a
Communicate.
conversation.
Don't do that.
Because sometimes
Don't
we
do
ask
that.
y'all
Yeah.
questions and y'all like,
See, I talked to my kids a little bit about that point last year, and we had a really good conversation, and we came up with kind of two, I don't want to say problems, I guess different perspectives. So on one hand, I think there are a lot of teachers out there that genuinely believe that if they're not giving their kids something new, like a new assignment to do every single day, that they're not doing enough. And that really translates into busy work. It's not something that they
Yeah,
always
right.
need.
Yeah.
And a lot of teachers, like, they're not doing it on purpose. They genuinely feel like if they're not
I
giving
could say
them
I'm
something,
guilty of that. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, okay, if I have them spend 2 days on an assignment, I'm wasting time. I'm like,
See,
I could be
I-
packing in something, and I'm like,
Right.
I
girl,
can't-
take a chill pill.
Right.
Like,
I can't do the busy
and
work.
the reality of the matter is, I don't think it's busy work if it's something they're working on to practice a skill, because
Right.
the
Yes.
reality of the matter is we have to cover so many classes. We're
Right.
still expected to lesson plan. So if I give you an assignment to work on for you to get some independent practice, and I got to type this lesson plan in, it's a give
Right.
and take. That's what we have to do sometimes. But giving them busy work to do every single day, you're a trash
Yeah,
teacher.
no.
If you
well,
do
that's
that.
what
I
kind
said
of
what I
what we
said.
came to another point that
Yeah,
I talked
said
to my
what I
kids
said.
about.
If you
He's
give
not
your
angry
kid,
about it, yeah.
if you give your kids busy work every single day, and you do not stand up and teach them, you're a trash teacher. I don't care who get mad about that. If you're mad, put on the cape so you can be super mad. I had a teacher in high
was
school
coming.
who was my geometry teacher. Do y'all know I always struggled in math. Like, algebra was like super hard for me, but my teacher came in and taught every single day, so that at least when I saw algebra, I had a familiarity with it, even if I didn't understand how to do it. My geometry teacher, when I got to college, I could not figure out geometry at all, like, or statistics and all that kind of stuff, because my geometry teacher, that dude literally in high school, I remember him to this day, looked like Yogi Bear. That dude literally sat at his desk every single day, passed out worksheets, didn't teach us how to do a single thing. And now as an adult, I don't even use geometry, but now as an adult, because I didn't even have a little bit of foundational information,
Right.
I can't figure out how to do that.
how are kids expected to just know how to do something themselves?
Right.
Like, I mean, that's pretty much how, like, my master's degree program went. Like, it was like all online. You teach yourself, and then you turn in a final project. And like, kids can't learn that way.
No, and we didn't learn that way.
No.
Like that geometry class is an extreme example, but every other class I had, my teachers were standing up teaching. This generation of teachers, because we have so many teachers that did an alternate route program, and hear me when I say I'm not bashing y'all, I'm just merely stating what has been observed. We have so many teachers that did an alternate route program. The education system is so jacked up that we haven't had time to train these teachers on how to actually stand up and teach. So you got people coming in that their previous career, they might have been in banking or they might have been in whatever, that don't know every single day your kids should be reading, writing, and discussing if you teach an ELA class. And that every day you should be, even if you only teach them like grammar or something small, right? So every day your kids read, write, and discuss. Some people, they don't know that you're supposed to, I do, we do, you do. A simple thing like that, but it's teachers that they don't know that. They don't know that I show you what the skill is, right?
Yeah.
And that's when in college and high school, that was us taking notes. Then we do it together. I model how to do it. We're answering back and forth, and then you do it to show me that you know how to do the skill. It's teachers that have no idea they're supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
So I do, you do, we do.
I like
I do,
Scaffolding.
you do, we
See,
do.
on the other side, though, and something else, the second thing that I talk to my kids about is that a lot of students, if they get an assignment and they don't blatantly see how this is going to help them, they just assume it's busy work. And that doesn't mean there's not a purpose.
Right.
And that doesn't
Right.
mean there's not a practice.
Right.
They just genuinely, and this is again what my kids
Right,
told
right.
me, if they don't understand the purpose hands on, or if you
Right.
don't tell them,
Right.
they assume it's busy work. They don't care. They don't want to do it.
Right,
They
and
don't
that's
say
why you
there's
got to
a
give
purpose.
clear instructions as
Right.
a teacher.
Like,
Because you
okay,
still don't have a
so-
kid that's like, what we doing?
I was just talking about this with my fifth graders, because at the end of fifth grade, they have to learn how to do on-demand writing, which is they get a prompt.
Yep.
You have so much time. You write me an essay.
Yep.
And that's a lot for
Yep,
a 10-year-old
sure is.
or 11-year-old
Sure is.
for you to give them a question and have to write a 5-paragraph essay in an hour.
Right.
Right.
And So
lot
I
of
mean,
pressure.
I don't sugarcoat it with them. I'm like,
Right.
guys, this is really hard. I'm like, but we're gonna start practicing it in January. So by the test in April, you know how to do it.
Right.
But like, you're gonna have to put in the hard work. And I told them every Friday, you're writing me an essay.
Right.
It's not because I don't want to teach you for an hour. It's
Right,
because I
it's
want
'cause
you to
I
have
need you to
time to
practice.
practice
Right.
it
See, even
and to reflect on how you've
Right,
been
right,
doing
right.
and improving and things like that. But if you don't communicate those things to
Right.
students, why should they care?
Right.
But
Yeah.
even a step further of like, why are we completing this? You know, one assignment that my kids hate doing are DBQs. You know, social studies.
It's a
You do-
DBQ.
So
Yeah, what that
document based questions.
Oh,
what you do is I
okay.
ask them a question and I give them a bunch of documents that relate to the time
So
period.
it's like a text dependent question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. They basically are
Like,
using
put that
the
in language arts
documents-
language, please.
Yes.
Right.
So, and they have to write an entire essay using the documents, and I'm trying to think of an example, and I like can't right now because I'm like on the spot. But-
now you're unlocking a memory of taking ACP history.
Core memory unlocked.
What, 14 years ago in high school. 14 years ago in high school,
Oh,
the DBQ,
no.
and I'm like,
DBQs
it's like I just
they're
had a that's so
monsters.
Raven moment.
His heart just
Like,
started beating really fast.
We just
But-
dated
Yeah.
ourselves talking about
We
that.
did.
So Raven.
Well, so I used to actually give them the why of like, hey, you're gonna have to write these kinds of essays either for college essays or in your college classes. But you know, I know a lot of kids aren't gonna go to college, so I just kind of use the basis of, look, sometime in your life, you're gonna have to make a statement and back it up with facts. If you
Right,
just
that's
say,
true.
oh, blah blah blah, the sky is green.
I love when she says blah blah blah.
That goes in my book,
Blah, blah,
okay?
blah.
That's in
If
your
you
book.
just make the statement, the sky is green, you're just talking out of your butt. Like, why is no one's going to believe, like, why would anyone believe you?
Right.
You need to back it up with
Right,
facts. You need
right.
to have an article or a, something that you read or something that someone said that tells people
Right.
why they should listen to you.
Right.
Why they should
Do we
listen
call
to you.
that a real world connection?
Yes, it is a
Shooby-dooby-doo.
real world connection. Thank you.
But
I'm a
here,
decent
okay, so
teacher.
if you're a kid listening to this podcast, or if you're a teacher and you can relay this message to your kids, if you're a kid listening to this, if you don't hear nothing else we say this whole podcast, it does not take smarts to at least try.
No,
No.
You
it
do
doesn't.
not have to be smart. You don't have to be the smartest person in the classroom. I'm telling you again, no teacher will fail a student who will at least try.
Yes.
No teacher. I ain't failing the kid. I don't care if he can't spell C spot or run. If he try to spell C spot run, he gonna pass. So some of y'all won't even try. Like, what?
He hit the microphone.
What?
During the good
Microphone.
speech.
It was
Ooh,
a
the
beautiful
big
speech.
speech.
And I was there for C Spot Run. I was like, yes, keep going. And then I smacked.
You know what?
Sorry.
You can't walk and chew gum at the same
I
time.
can't. I can't.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, but I'm really interested to hear more of these
Yeah.
I know.
students.
Sorry.
These
So here's
students.
another one. I'm gonna read a couple in a row and then we can talk
Yeah.
about it. This
Okay.
student said, honestly, for me at least, I'm tired of it. School stresses me out, and the pressure from parents and social media and other aspects makes it worse. This student said, to be completely honest, as a 16-year-old senior, the reason I'm so apathetic is because I'm burned out after years of honors courses. 16-year-old senior, she is
I
really
want to
taking
go back to what the last one just said of social media. Just,
I think he said social. It was supposed to be from parents and social and other aspects, but he could be talking about social media.
because I want to hear more.
Mm-hmm.
If we say nothing else about that one comment, I want if any student, if any person
Mm-hmm.
is listening to me at all in the slightest bit, social media is not real.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
people
So
always put
Yeah.
the best photos,
Right.
edited to the best lighting,
Right.
and the best whatever. No one's gonna put. Most people are not gonna put sad things, what's going wrong in their life on social media.
Yeah.
It's only the
Actually,
best.
I try to make it a point to do that, and not in a way of like I don't want to overshare ever.
Right.
But I think
Right.
that it's important too that especially because I mean, I don't have students that follow me because they
Little
bitties.
barely know how to use a thumb. So they definitely don't know
How
how
does
to
this
scroll.
work?
Yeah. So but I know that their parents do, and I think it humanizes
Just the one thumb.
teachers. But I think it says something for the kids to see their teachers be vulnerable,
Agreed.
and because we've put ourselves in this position of being,
Mm-hmm.
on social media and being, out there.
Right.
I think it's important to not just post the jokes, but for kids to also say like, oh, it's not always this, and this for my teacher, or my teacher is human, and that gives the child permission then
Right. To be,
Yes.
to come to school and give us that as well.
Going back to what you said about social media being fake, somebody gonna get mad. But some of y'all need to stop airbrushing y'all's pictures because your original, whatever little app y'all got that's touching up y'all's picture, turn your
Listen,
face
just
no,
at
no.
me next
completely
time,
different
okay?
person.
I have-
No,
No,
your
I'm
pictures
kidding.
don't do that. But some of these people out here editing their pictures to look airbrushed
I-
like a mug.
I
If
don't
you get
airbrush myself,
kidnapped-
but beauty mode is
No,
on
I'm not talking
TikTok.
about beauty mode.
No, what really irritates me is the people who preach on social media, love yourself, you're beautiful, nothing's wrong with you, but then go in and like shrink their waist in all their photos.
My
That
thing
don't always
is, like, if you get kidnapped, the picture we got the police, you look like potato. The picture on your social media, you look like Halle Berry. So are you highly potato or you highly berry? Which one? I'm just looking out for you. I watch a lot of Dateline.
Listen,
and some of y'all gonna get
I know
kidnapped.
that there's students out there who are like, I can't be at school right now. I have to stay home and edit my photos.
I'm just gonna let you know, if I ever get kidnapped, give them the potato picture.
Because that's how I looked when I was kidnapped.
I like you as a potato.
I don't think I've ever been like, nope, this isn't edited. I'm always like, I edited this photo and this is how you can too. Because I don't want people to ever think that even
Yeah.
I
remotely
just
that
don't want the
like,
pressure to have to look like that.
Yeah,
all the time.
I don't edit my photo. One, I don't post photos of myself very much because I
Neither
just
does
don't
Tell.
take pictures.
I've never posted a photo of myself.
Never,
No.
ever. He's
No.
so modest.
Listen, I was laughing.
No,
at
I
because
always say,
Fabio said that.
take the picture, save it, filter, and save it again. Like no, I'm all like, I don't think I've ever edited to not look like me, but I love like the little filter moment.
Well,
I kind
I
of like
think
having
that's
like
different,
oily
but-
skin
No,
and
that's
like I
different
like
than,
I like them seeing
you
that I
know,
have
making
acne.
your
and-
But people
jawline
change
look
like the whole
smaller
facial
or like
appearance
like
with the-
Oh, you know when
That's
when this
different.
podcast comes out, I'm posting a photo that day. It's gonna look nothing like me. It's gonna look nothing. They'll be
Do
like,
it on purpose.
okay. Is
no,
that,
but
purpose?
I do that too. Like I really try hard to eliminate that boundary of like I'm their teacher. I can't be a real human. Like
Yeah.
I mean I'm honest with them, and even on my TikToks, like I don't post them very often because I mean a lot of the time I don't genuinely have terrible days at work now, but I've talked about, you know, in the past how I almost quit teaching altogether because I felt myself I was not good enough. And I, you know, had rough days during like times when we were hybrid teaching, and I was like, I posted a video of myself sitting in my car crying. Like
did that last
kids
year.
need to see us be
Hybrid
like
The
that.
day after I got my second shot, and I just was crying at school, and I just I don't know what made me think of it, but I just thought everyone only sees me as like this happy or sassy person, and I literally just filmed a video like, hey guys, I don't really know what to say, but I just wanted you to see this side of me.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
bye.
it helps kids to see their teachers that way.
Man, I cried in my car many times. My kids came to class the next day like, hey, shut up and sit down somewhere because y'all made Miss Richardson cry yesterday. I'm like, how you know I was crying yesterday? I seen your video in your car, best friend. Sit down somewhere. All right, so here's a couple more. This student said, I think it's because at this point we're also drained and tired and experience so much hurt and stress that we just give up before we're given up on.
Oh.
That
is
breaks my heart.
sad.
What scares me about children and thinking that too, right? So they want to stop or whatever before they're given up on. And I know we don't like to get political, but then we have bills like that are happening in Indiana where it's explicit that now teachers, if this bill were to pass, cannot talk to their students about any kind of social and emotional thing they're going through unless they have explicit writing and permission from the parents.
And a lot of the times the issues
Are
from the parents.
And it's not that we're bad talking parents. And in fact, a lot of the times we can say, look at it from
Yeah.
your mom or dad or
I've
your
said that a lot,
your
yeah.
adult's
Right.
perspective at home. But it's now that the child feels like that they're being given up on. And I can't imagine a kid coming up to me. I taught in Indiana for 6 years. I mean, it's not like, and I can't imagine a kid coming up to me being like, mommy and daddy got in a fight and be like,
Can't talk to you.
sorry, honey, I know you're
No.
5 years old, but I
Right.
can't talk to you about this
Right.
because
No.
a
Yeah.
bill says I can't. Let
And
me go
school
work
is
on
a
my.
school is a safe place for them.
It's
Like,
supposed to be,
I
but
can't imagine something like that because I mean I grew up in Tennessee. I can't imagine a bill like that being passed in Tennessee because my teachers were a safe place for me. Like they were the people that I talked to about that kind of stuff. Teachers, like, we're, you know, I know we say we wear a lot of different hats, but like my teachers, like, for real, were like a safe place
Yes.
for me.
I had a girl when I was teaching sophomores, and I loved this girl to death. She was so funny. We joked around in class all the time. She participated every day, and one day she just looked like a zombie in class. And her mom was like, her mom's liver was failing, and her stepdad was threatening her safety. and her, like, it was a whole thing, and I cannot imagine me not being able to be there for her. Like, I stayed up every single night worrying, is she safe tonight? Is she at her dad's house?
Right.
Or is she at her stepdad's house? Is she coming to school today? Because, like, they would keep her home to, like, watch the mom.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine not being able to check in with her because a
Right.
bill says I can.
I don't think these lawmakers know how much of teaching
They have no
is
idea.
really parenting.
They have
Oh,
no idea.
And how
They
much
have
of
no
it
For
is,
sure.
you know,
They have no
And
idea.
you know what?
you
I actually
can't
think,
teach them how to read or write if
Right.
they're
Right.
not in the
They
right
have no
headspace.
idea.
and I actually think a lot of these, I don't think they realize that you are punishing the teachers, but you're punishing the students.
Yes.
I do think a lot of these people do understand that it is parenting, and I think that makes them self-conscious, that to know
Oh, yeah,
that it's
you know,
not
you're
them.
right.
But I can't imagine. I mean, I can because it was like this for me. But if I have a student that's going through something specific in my classroom, I have students, whose parents were divorcing or they're moving or someone passed away. I can't imagine not having the autonomy to go to my bookshelf and pull out a book about a grandparent dying or moving or divorcing the family and reading that to the class. And bills like that are happening not just in Indiana, but in other states where you have to have your lesson plans done for the entire year. I've written lesson plans on a McDonald's wrapper because I had to go do it on the fly. And you're telling me you want that a year in advance? I don't know what
Unrealistic.
social emotional stuff my students are going through.
Not
and
only,
so
and that's not
much.
best practice either, because
Right.
you're supposed
Right.
to, as an educator, you are taught
Adapt.
to adapt to your students,
Exactly.
adapt to their skill set
Yeah.
and to their social emotional needs
Right.
and their developmental abilities. If you're trying to plan for like a college course that has a
Right.
syllabus a year in advance or whatever, that you could look at every assignment you're going to
Right.
be given,
Right.
then there's no differentiation happening. There's
And
no
and it's not even
adapting.
It's not even just the lesson plan, right? It's the fact that child comes in that day, and the parent, I've had students who were transitioning, and their parents weren't accepting of the student's transition. I can't even read a book to that student about it because the parents can sit there and say, look at your lesson plan and say, I don't like that you're talking about this, or teaching that kind of math, so you can't do that. And if the child were to come in, I can't do it, or I could lose my teaching license.
Right.
Indiana, babe, you're in the position to lose more teachers than what you got.
And they do not even care. And then
No.
I saw a meme the other day on Facebook, and I don't really get on Facebook that much because y'all grandparents be on there starting stuff. But
They're all from Indiana.
They always start stuff. They always start stuff.
Indiana is single-handedly supporting what is it, Meta?
The metaverse.
But somebody
Indianaverse.
said, people always talking about these teachers are indoctrinating my kids. And
Oh
somebody
my
was
God,
like,
I hate that word.
But somebody was like, look, if teachers could indoctrinate your kids, I would have already indoctrinated them not to eat Takis at 7 o'clock in the morning and
Right.
put on some
And I'm
damn
sorry, but,
deodorant.
like,
I would have indoctrinated them on a lot of different
do
things.
people not know what that word means? Because you telling us what we can and can't read to our
I
students.
think
That
they
is
throw that
exactly
word
the
around
definition
as
right
a
there.
power trip, and it's like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, like I was telling you guys in the car last night, like my nail lady and I have opposing views, and we have good discussions about
Yeah.
them, and we have a mutual respect that we agree to disagree about a lot of things. And she was asking me the one day, well, because I was saying that I read the book Pride, and it's about Harvey Milk.
Super cute book.
Love that book. And she was saying, well, don't you think that's inappropriate for you to bring up with your students? And I said, no, why do you think that? And she said, well, because I think that's something that the parents should be in charge of talking about. I said, I agree, but they don't. And I said,
Exactly.
how would you feel if you came into a classroom and the teacher only read books about, I don't know, about you're the only girl in the class and the teacher only read books about boys? Or whatever. How would
Yeah,
you
you
feel
would
if you
feel-
had no representation in
right,
any
right.
literature that your teacher brought to your face? You would feel like the
Right.
odd one out. You would feel left
Right,
out. You'd
right.
feel weird and unaccepted.
Just
Right.
because you're reading about it, right? Just because you're not reading about it doesn't mean they don't exist. So like,
Right.
Yep.
just because you're not reading Pride doesn't mean you don't have queer children in your classroom.
Yes,
it doesn't
right.
take that away.
exactly.
So all it does is it further marginalizes
Right.
your
And it
your
doesn't matter how
BIPOC
young.
and your queer
No.
children by not reading about it. Then they just sit there in the room, and then we have things like this where the child, why do I want to go to school to a place that that doesn't feel safe to me,
Right.
that I'm not appreciated, that my teacher can't reach out and like, isn't that what that's what we've been
Right.
doing for
Yes.
years?
And even
wanna-
more so, like, these are really like personal questions that a lot of kids are scared to ask their parents about, but even more
Yes.
so, a lot of them don't want to ask their parents about everyday things. Like, I can't tell you how many times I scrapped my lesson because something happened either in our country or around the world or
Right.
something,
and
and
the
the
kid
kids
wanna
were
talk
they
about
just
it.
wanted to understand, and so
Right.
we literally would scrap the lesson and just look at every different viewpoint
Right.
of what was happening, so that we could come up with what the kids
Yeah.
thought on their own, and they didn't have to share what their underlying
Yeah.
opinion
And
was.
my
We
thing
looked
is-
at every different viewpoint so that they could come to their own conclusion of
Right.
what they agreed with.
My thing is, why the hell are y'all so scared of other people's viewpoint? Like,
Well,
why?
why are you afraid of having open-minded children?
Right. Like, I just don't understand that. But let me read a couple more because they really are great. I'm gonna read like 3 or 4 of them, and then
Yeah,
we can
let's do it.
discuss them because I want to get as many of these read so our listeners can hear them, and the kiddos that sent these in can hear that.
We
we
care.
hear their voice and we care. This student said, I'm a 13-year-old and I've had so many toxic teachers who have done terrible things to me and told me such bad things, and I still have bad teachers now. This kid said, personally, I'm just burnt out at the moment from the pandemic and the mental stress that school puts on me. And then this kid said, because school is boring and forcing us to learn isn't fun, and humans always want to learn, but if it's not fun, then why want to learn? That's amazing. Then this kid said, to be honest, for me, I do care, but sometimes there are things that can throw off my whole mood and I just want to be left alone. And I'm like, I understand that as an adult. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's not realistic in everyday life, but I
the
understand
thing.
what they're saying.
How many times, and I honestly truly mean this, how many times have you been put in a situation, okay, let's say outside of the classroom, let's say not in the classroom because we have legal obligations to stay in the classroom, but how many times have you been put in a situation where you couldn't give yourself 5 minutes away from everyone else as an adult?
A lot of times.
Like, I feel
And
like
it makes you feel worse. And
Right.
were we not just talking about self-care and talking
Right.
about if you need to take the day, you
Right.
take the day? And like, why is that okay for us but not for kids?
Right. Like, and that's why I'm like such an and I know that I'm gonna piss someone off, that we should have these like safe spots in either schools or in every classroom where a child just needs to say we have to have it at the pre-K level, that I can make not
Like a peace corner.
I'm
Not
feeling
okay.
rough.
I'm
I need
not
to
okay
just
right
go
now.
sit by myself for a
Yeah.
second. And the decrease in behaviors and just for a kid to be able to sit there and like mindlessly do something and be like, oh, I'm okay now.
Yeah, we had that at my other school. That's the one good thing I will say. It was mandatory, and at first I was like, what is this about? But then once I implemented it, I really liked it. It's called the Peace Corner, and it was just a spot in the room that had like a comfy little chair or a carpet square or whatever, and some stuffed animals. I had a windmill in there, so in case they were angry, they could just blow on it. I had some like mandala coloring books and stuff. I had like a little bubble timer, like all these things to just make it like real chill. And a lot of the time, like you'd have to train them to go there.
Right.
But then after they got the hang of it and they would just get up and go, so many behaviors that would be
Right.
taken care of. But like you need a minute
Sometimes
sometimes.
they need a minute,
You
right.
do.
You know, thinking back to one of the first things that you just said in that list that you mentioned, is there's not many things that pisses me off more than teachers that don't need to be in the classroom.
Girl,
I'll never forget.
So many
in
of
this,
them.
a lot.
It still enrages me to this day, and I literally am trying so hard to like not tear up about it because I still get so pissed. I'll never forget the one time I taught seniors. I'll never teach seniors again. I'm sorry, y'all stress me out. But the one time I taught seniors, I just remember this kid was working really hard to be accepted into college, and he was working so hard, and I was so proud of him. And he just came in looking devastated one day, and I asked him, what's going on? I pulled him after class. I didn't want to like draw attention to him. And he's like, I don't know if I'm gonna apply to that school anymore, Miss Rogers. And I'm like, why? And he's, my math teacher said that I'm not gonna amount to anything. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because I'm a black kid, and it's not gonna matter anyways.
I've been ready to fight then.
And I
fight with you.
I've
just
been ready to scrap.
like I'm sweating right now because it just makes me so, I'll never
terrible.
forget the anger that filled my body. And I went to her and I was like, what is your problem?
okay.
What is wrong with you? And she's like, I was genuinely trying to look out for him. I said, that's not looking out for him.
No.
Because he's what?
Because he's black.
Destroying
That he
People are
was
so
not
delusional.
Destroying his confidence and being a racist is
I
not
wonder-
looking out for
Okay.
him.
And
Say it
she's
again
like,
for the
I
people
was.
in the back.
She's like, I wasn't being I was genuinely trying to make sure he had realistic
Why would she say
expectations. I'm
the
like,
book-
what is
Wait,
wrong with you?
Wow.
I don't get it. If
Right,
she,
right.
She thought that a realistic expectation was that he couldn't go to college because he was black.
That he shouldn't try to succeed like in a high, like he wanted to go to college
That's-
and get a good job, and I was so mad.
That
I
is-
was so mad.
I don't even know if the mad would be the word. I would be I would be
I-
terrified. Our producer, I think his eyes just got. You can bleep that out. I would be angry that this woman is teaching children and has that perspective on
The
on
worst
her
part
black
is though,
students.
she genuinely didn't think there was anything wrong
That's
with
what
that.
scares me.
She
I
thought it
wouldn't
was
be-
helping.
I wouldn't be sad.
The-
I'd be terrified
The
that this woman's
amount
teaching.
of-
I'm still
the
sweating.
amount of ignorant ass people that
Believe that
work
too.
in
In
This,
education.
Don't cut
this
that
episode's
part.
got us fired, guys.
the amount of ignorant people that work with children of color and are so culturally ignorant and culturally insensitive
Right.
is beyond me.
And
It
these
is
babies
absolutely astounding.
And these babies need they need people who are going to champion
Mm-hmm.
around them, and for all kids do.
Right.
Not it doesn't matter if they're children of color or not, but there's been so many studies on the school to pipeline or school
Yeah,
to prison
school-to-prison
pipeline,
pipeline.
and it's just like when we tell specific there was this really interesting thing that they did, and they took teachers and they had them watch this video, and they said one of these kids is going to act up, which one is it, and they could track the teacher's eye movement. They all went to the little black boy. It was always the little white girl, and it was the example of it didn't
Dang.
matter what, and it was just like we need to know this bias, right? So like we need to know this bias about ourselves, and
Right.
it was literally almost every single teacher, and it made me go to school the next day and
Yeah.
think, am I being too hard because I want to make sure that I don't want them to go to the next grade and for that teacher to be looking at them. So I know,
Right.
and I was like, if you don't go in with a caring
Mm-hmm.
heart and the ability to tell these kids they literally can do anything, and there is no restrictions on what they can and can't do, and you have teachers that are telling them not to apply to college their
Right.
senior year of school. It's
Well,
that's,
didn't somebody told me this when I first started teaching? I couldn't believe this. Don't they? They determine like the number of prisons or something they're going to build by their third grade test scores or something.
so
like that?
it's
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
test
they just-
scores and how often. So now a lot of schools, which I had a hard time with, that we talked about last night, aren't suspending or expelling kids.
Mhm.
The minute you suspend a first, second grade child, you're immediately telling them you are so bad, nobody wants you here.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine what that does. And I don't know the solution because I'm not an administrator.
Right.
We're teachers.
and that's
not our
amazing
job.
that you would say that you don't know
I don't
the
know.
solution because
I don't know because
know.
I also know that sometimes I need a break. I can love the kid. I don't think I've ever come
Right.
across it I didn't love. No matter. I mean, we talked about the really bad ones that sometimes physically harm you, and you're still like, I love you, and it really sucks that you have to leave my class.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the solution is. But I know that the solution I found out that it's either that kid stays in my classroom and I figure it out, or they can develop a complex in a few years that they're a bad kid, and then this pipeline continues further. They can come back to my class. I don't know how I'm gonna fix it, or maybe you go into the office with a couple other kids, and you guys do your work there for a day or so, but they get to stay in school because I don't know what the solution is, but I know the solution isn't to further expel a first grader
Yeah.
and give them that thought, because a first grader, I can promise you, isn't doing it at their
And
own.
honestly, that's something I really had to learn because when I started teaching, I taught at an inner city school that had a lot of behavior issues, a lot of students with trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and I came from a large public school, but like nothing like that. Like we didn't see any like behaviors like I had seen when I started teaching. So it was a huge culture shock to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was beat and hit and punched and kicked
yeah.
and like
And
desks
it's
thrown.
hard to have the empathy
It's hard
when it's
when you're getting punched to say that kid doesn't need to be suspended. Like,
'cause
don't
it hurts
suspend
you.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when I was, first year teacher getting punched, I'm like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, do something. And
But did they also
at the
ever
time,
talk to you about the school to prison pipeline? Did they ever talk to you about that?
no, I never knew
So-
about that. But
so why
but
are
in
we-
my mind, I was thinking, I'm like, why? I'm like, why is it okay that this kid is punching me
Right.
and they're allowing him to stay in school? And I didn't understand it until I learned
Right.
more about it and became more educated
I
on the
will
subject
say,
matter.
I'm not against kids being suspended.
No, for
Some
sure.
of these kids need to go home.
But we also have to look at the ages though, because you're teaching
Right.
sixth
I
and
was teaching
eighth graders.
second grade.
Some of them need to go home.
Right.
I
so
was
I'm
teaching
saying
second grade, and that was
when
different.
We're teaching,
Okay.
When we're
Yeah.
teaching, by and not to say, I think middle school kids, when they're acting like something's going on, you know what I mean? Especially if this person doesn't just randomly develop this behavior.
Right.
But when we're looking at kindergarten, especially kindergarten through third grade, these kids are not acting out because they're quote unquote bad. They're acting out because something is going on, either at home or mentally. Something is going on, and just to keep pushing them aside and just expelling, and suspending, instead of being like, what's going on at home, which is something we're not going to be able to do.
Right.
If these policies keep passing, we're going to have a bigger
There's gonna be
pipeline.
an influx of behavior with that, and then there's also, and I hate to say it and go this morbid with it, but there's gonna be an influx of suicides,
Yes.
self-harm, all of those things, because there are gonna
There's
be
already
tons
been an
of
influx of
children
that.
that don't have anywhere to talk about
Yeah.
the people in their lives that are not doing them right.
Right. And I
know,
think
I-
sometimes schools suspend kids because y'all know we have a hard time getting a hold of these parents sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have consistent behaviors with your kids. It's a both and, like, we got to work together. So, you know, I can't get you on the phone. You won't come to meetings or whatever. My option now is to suspend your child, because now it affects you and affects your pocketbook,
that's-
because you
you're
got to
right,
find
you're
childcare
right.
for your child, because we've been trying to communicate with you that we having these problems at school.
Unfortunately,
now
yeah.
you suspended.
And
know-
then the parent's going to call.
Now you
Then
gonna
the parents
call.
going to call, and
Yeah.
that sucks.
Now
that
you're gonna
you
answer
have
the
to
phone
you have
instead
to
of giving
resort
me the
that.
number to
Yep.
Chick-fil-A, and I tried to call your house, but I ended up spending $15 because I called Chick-fil-A because I thought it was your number.
So, you know, I teach the older kids, and I was teaching a freshman world history class, and I had 2 kids that tried to fight every single day. Every day. And I kept trying to talk to them, It was my second year teaching. And eventually, like, I don't remember, it might have been like maybe the second or third time, and I had them in the hallway at separate times. And I just looked at both of them separate times, and I said, "You are so much better than this. Like, what are you doing? You could do so many more beneficial things." And that day, one of the kids came to my room during lunch, during like our office hours kind of thing. And I was like, "Hey, like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I wanted to know if I can study in here." And I was like, "Really? Like, it's like third month of school. Like, what's the occasion? Like, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here, but why?" He's like, "Well, none of my teachers ever told me they thought I could do more before, and you were the first one." I'm like, about to start crying. He's like, "No one ever told me that they thought I could do more, and you were the first one that did." And he came every single day to our office hours, and he went from a 46 to an 87.
That's amazing.
And I remember the first time I called, like, I wanted to call his dad and tell him, and the first thing that his dad said on the phone
What'd he
was
do?
like, "What'd he do?"
Yeah.
yeah,
And I was like, no.
you
And
did good. Yeah.
I don't think teachers realize that if you just, it is impossible to reach every child, and that
That's
breaks
right.
my heart to say,
Right,
but it
it's the
is.
truth.
But so many of these kids, if you just tell them that you believe in them instead of just suspending them to get them out of your face, like, just talk to them, and that can
Teachers
change
don't understand
some
the
of their
power of their
lives.
words.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are times that I've
Some
looked at
teachers, I
students who
should say.
are, especially, I mean, my kids came from the Head Start program. If you know anything about it, these kids come from trauma. The most,
Yeah.
the most severe cases can be accepted in school. It's a point system. So if you had a parent die, if you had a parent incarcerated, if you have a sibling that has cognitive delays, or you get points, and whoever has the highest points because you're getting the most traumatized of children. And I won't forget, we did a PD, one of the only PDs actually, and they said if you at the most angry, or when a child is upset and you needs it the most, and you tell them that, like, you understand them, that you love them, whatever that child needs at the time, they'll know that even if you're mad and disciplining them, that you don't hate them. And that was just a
yeah.
game changer in my classroom. That even when I was really upset with them, we didn't do timeouts, but I'm like, I think I understand what you're going through. I would be really mad if I were you too. That sounds really frustrating. I love you, but I need you to go sit down.
Right.
The behavior still happened,
Right.
but it came from a place of
Love.
and not a place of, like,
Right.
anger and
Right.
and being, like, irate. And that
Yeah.
was a huge game changer for
Yeah.
the kids.
Well, our producer's flashing us.
He said,
He's like,
"It's
He
wrap
said
it
too
y'all
up,
are
long."
talking too
or
much.
they're gonna come out with the cane like at Showtime at the Apollo where they yank y'all
Man,
off stage. But so we want to end this by saying we know that we have said some things that everybody might not, you know what I'm saying, agree with.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all gonna argue in the comments, do
That's
you
fine. Engagement
But
levels.
you know, we all come from different perspectives, we all teach different age groups, so understand that we all speaking from our different perspectives, right? So but I think this conversation is beneficial to have with your students and directly just have some real talk with them. And like Becca said, we're not going to be able to reach every student. It's just impossible. We only one person. It's impossible to do that. But there is a conversation that needs to be had, and you being able to just talk to your students like they're real people. And so, do y'all have anything else y'all want to say?
We love
Well, if
you.
you're, I was going to say, if you're a student out there listening, just know that even if you've had some toxic teachers, that don't give up hope even on just that one good teacher.
Yeah.
And if not, you have 4 teachers here that love you.
We love you. We're your
And
teachers.
we believe in you, and we know you can do great things.
You can do great
Sorry.
things. But let's go
We
for
gotta
Big
go
Star
for Star
Crime. Wrap it up.
Crying.
Wrap it up. Bye, guys.
Bye.